Now that I have my slab made, I've transferred it to a wear board with a piece of newspaper underneath of it, and I have it on a turntable. And that's going to make it really easy for me to add coils and build onto this piece. You have to use a wear board on top of the turntable. You don't want to build directly on the turntable because you want to be able to remove your piece and put it on your shelf and leave the turntable at your workstation for the next person to use. So you have a wear board, newspaper, slab. My slab is at least an inch or more bigger than the shape that I need to cut for the base of my coil pot. The first thing that we need to do before we start adding coils is to cut the shape of our base out. If you're making a circle, you can use a compass, which I have a compass made for cutting circles in clay. You can find something that is a circle like the lid of a bucket that's about the same size that you need for your bottom of your pot. Or if you know that the base is a certain size based on your scale drawing, you can use a ruler and you can measure out and create a number of marks that will allow you to draw a circle. So for my drawing, the base of my pot is a 7-inch diameter circle. So I will place my ruler roughly in the middle of my slab. Find the diameter of your circle, then calculate the radius by dividing the diameter in half. The diameter of my base is 7 inches, so the radius is 3.5 inches. I'll place the 3.5 inch mark in the center of the slab, then mark the 0 and 7 inch diameter. Using the center mark, I'll rotate the ruler around, making several evenly spaced marks at 0 and 7 inches. Then I'll connect all of those marks and draw the 7-inch circle. I'm going to use this tool that's made specifically for clay to cut circles and put that right in the center and then allow that to draw a line by using the banding wheel. Now the circle is exactly the size of the base that I want. But in order to have this slab ready to add coils to, I need to cut it out at least 1/2 inch bigger all the way around. So I'm going to just draw a line that's roughly 1/2 inch larger than my base. There you can see I have 2 circles. The inside line is the size that my base will be. And the outside line is where I'm going to cut. So I'll use my fettling knife and cut that outside line. This clay can be removed and turned into a coil and added to my pot later. Now to have this slab ready to receive a coil, I need to turn this edge up. So I'm going to turn the edge up that extra 1/2 inch that I just created on the base. Making sure that that first line that I drew, that is the actual size of the base, is in that crease. Compressing, making sure that the shape is the way I want it to be. You see here I have created a lip, and that will be where I add my first coil. So at this point I've turned up that edge. I'm ready to start adding coils. I'll go to my bank of coils over here. For this first coil, we're going to set it down on the inside of this rim that we just pinched up. And I'm going to pinch the coil against the rim. My thumb will be pushing the coil down against the slab, and my fingers on the outside will be pulling that lip up against the coil. I'm holding the coil in my other hand. Down on the inside and up on the outside. Now when my coil gets to the end of itself, I will overlap them about a half an inch, tear off the excess, and then pinch that seam together. I'm going to go back the other direction, continuing that same pinch where I'm pressing down, sealing that seam, pulling up a little bit on the outside, really compressing that coil against the floor, against the slab, and pinching that lip that I created on the slab up against the coil on the outside. Now you probably noticed that I didn't slip and score at all. If we are taking wet, soft coils that we've made directly from the bag and they haven't dried at all, and the clay that we're adding it to is still wet and moist and tacky, we don't need to slip and score as long as we pinch together really well. So one more time around, compressing the edge of the slab against the coil. Now we still have a little bit of a seam here, and that's something you can come in and compress just with your finger. Carefully smooth that seam and compress it together. We don't want to press too hard. We don't want to create a big groove or indentation in the slab. Now we're ready to add our second coil. So I'm going to place this coil just slightly below the edge of this coil and on the inside. So you see it's on the inside. I'm not placing it on top. I'm putting it on the inside. And I'm going to do the same pinch where I pinch downward a little bit with my thumb and pull up on the outside coil with my finger. Now at this point, we're starting to create the direction of this wall. Depending on the direction I hold my hand, that will determine the direction that the wall goes. So if my design goes straight up at this point, I'm going to hold my hand straight up. If the wall leans out, I'll hold my hand at this angle. I'm building straight up at this point. When I get to the end, I'll overlap the coil a little bit, pinch off the excess, and then come back and pinch those together again. Pressing down on the inside and pulling up on the outside, like this. Now I'm also making sure that I maintain the same thickness. So all of my pinches, I'm never pinching tighter together than that 3/8 of an inch. So I want to make sure that the walls are all 3/8 of an inch thick. If I feel an area that feels thicker, I'll try to apply a little more pressure in that area and thin that out. Now my design is going to come up, it's going to lean out slightly, and then it'll come in, and I'll show you how to make that transition. But at this point, I just want to continue to add coils. And I'm going to keep adding them on the inside edge and holding my hand at the right angle to make sure the ball goes the right direction. So each time I add a coil, I pinch it in place, and then I come back and pinch that coil even further. And that second pinch is when I'm really adhering the coil and smoothing out the seams between the two coils. And then I'll come back with a third pinch and really trying to maintain that 3/8 of an inch thickness. As you're working, you want to frequently look at your form from the side and make sure that it's in the shape that you want it to be. I'm going to add a few more coils on here, and then we'll use our metal rib to smooth and shape this even further. So this coil is almost too short. Let's say it was really short, which is very possible. Well, you'll pinch that in place, and then you can just take a section of another coil and make sure that you overlap the two ends a little bit. Pinch that in place and fill that gap.